Today I'm reviewing two paddles from A11N Sports. A wide body control paddle, the Empire Control Max, and an elongated power paddle, the Empire Power Max. Both of these paddles were sent to me in exchange for a review. Let's roll a little bit of B footage of me hitting these paddles with my initial thoughts, and then we'll get into the details of the review. Okay, so we'll start with the Control Max. Sweet spot's really large. I really like it. I'm just missing my drops here. One thing that I have noticed about this paddle as I've played with it is that generating power can be a little tough. But if you don't have a problem with generating power, then this will be a good paddle. Let's do some resets. Do some mid-court resets here. As you can see, the paddle's very stable in my hands. I'm able to get the ball down. It doesn't twist in my hands, which is typical of a wide body paddle. That was a little high. We got it down. High two. I think we're out of balls. So we'll move on to the Power Max. So we'll moving on now to the Power Max. You don't really need to hit that hard to generate power with this. It's generating power really nicely. My wife played with this and immediately noticed that it had a ton of power. Let's do some mid-court resets. And that she didn't have to swing as hard to get the power that she wanted. She typically uses a gearbox, like a GX5 or something like that. And she immediately noticed the difference when she switched paddles. So if you're coming from one of those older gearboxes, oh, that one was a dud, then you'll probably notice the same thing too. Really easy to generate power with this. And the sweet spot's pretty decent. Oh! There was one ball left in the chamber. So that's the Power Max. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about them as soon as I'm done picking up all these balls. So I want to start with the Control Max first. Stats are up on the screen for you right now for the Control Max. By the way, both of these paddles are 16 millimeter paddles. So as far as the thickness of the paddle, you're not going to find any variance there. So overall, I enjoyed playing with this paddle. I think I played about a dozen games with this paddle, and it's very stable in the hand. I was able to get drops in a lot easier than with a hybrid shaped paddle. I've never actually played with a standard shaped paddle before, so this was my first time playing with one, and I liked it quite a bit. Now I will say that it did feel a little bit slower in my hand compared to the hybrid shaped paddle that I typically use. Now this particular paddle weighed in at 8.1 ounces, which is kind of within the normal weight of what you'd find with a wide body paddle. They use a spray-on grit in order to generate spin, and personally I found that for both of these paddles, and we'll get to the Power Max later, but for both paddles the grit wore off pretty quickly. Now I don't incorporate a lot of spin in my game except for like top spin on serves and drives, but if you're someone who really likes to incorporate spin, you're going to notice the spin fall off in about 10 games. I noticed it pretty quickly, and if there's one complaint that I have about it and one thing that I think needs to be improved, it's that spray-on grit, because this thing feels about 50% smoother than it did when it came out of the box. The paddle felt very stable in my hand. especially on resets. And I didn't feel like I had any trouble with knocking down resets, or again, like I said before, getting in third shot drops, or in my dinking game. If you are a control player and you like to make sure that you're dropping thirds all the time and you dink a lot, I think this would be a good paddle for you. Again, if you don't incorporate a lot of spin in your game. So let's move on to the Empire Power Max. Stats are on the screen for you right now. This is an elongated power paddle. My wife played with it and said she immediately noticed the difference in power between this and her gearbox that she plays with, which I think is a GX5. I may have mentioned that in the B-roll. The sweet spot is pretty normal sized for an elongated paddle. By the way, good sweet spot on the Control Max. Very large sweet spot. It's kind of natural with a wide body paddle. Decent sweet spot. And again, the one place where it suffers is with the spin. The spin is going to drop off after a while because that spray-on grit is going to wear out. Now, there's a lot to be said for technique, and people with the right technique can still generate spin. My wife is one of those people. Like I said, she plays with a gearbox. Those aren't really known for a ton of spin, and she's able to generate a lot of spin with that, and she was also able to generate a ton of spin with the Power Max as well. This particular one weighed in at about 7.9 ounces, so around that 8-ounce area. Felt good in the hand, didn't twist too much, but obviously compared to a wide body paddle, it's going to twist a little bit more because it's so narrow, so it just doesn't have that weight spread out. Overall, these are both good paddles. They're on sale right now for about $60, so fairly good value, I think. And if you're moving up from one of those beginner paddles, I think this is a good paddle for you. If you're going to want something where the grit is going to last longer, you're probably going to want to move up to a carbon fiber paddle rather than one of these paddles with spray-on grit. Again, it's something that I think that they could improve. That's the only complaint that I have about these paddles. They both feel good in the hand. They both perform as expected and as advertised, and I think they're both really good quality paddles. When you consider that you also get an edge guard with them, which is going to be helpful for, you know, keeping the paint on the edges. These are edgeless paddles, so there's no edge guard, so they provide you with an edge tape that comes with it. I think you're looking at a pretty good deal. If you look for these when they're on sale, I think they're a pretty good value for someone moving up from a basic paddle who doesn't want to pay more than $50 or $60. That's the A11N Control and Power Max paddles. If you're looking for a pickleball bag, check out this video right here. I think this is one that you're going to want, especially if you haul around a lot of paddles like I do. Thanks for watching. Bye. So here I am at Perry Road Baptist Church. They've been gracious enough to let me use the church to do a little pickleball and a little filming, but let me show you a little behind the scenes. I got a GoPro-like camera set up over here, and then I got another one over here. And that's not the craziest of all of it. That's my setup. Because nobody else is here playing with me, I just kind of moved enough chairs out of the way to set things up here for the balls. And there's my ball launcher. There's another smartphone for filming. And then of course I'll be filming on this phone as well. So just a quick behind the scenes look for you all of what it takes to film some of my review videos.